it's Crystal. Thanks for coming by today. Just want to do a little quickie kind of reading, wrap up, catch up update for what I've been reading here lately, because we've already kind of moved into July and I still haven't talked about anything I read in June and a little bit at the tail end of May. So I just kind of feeling a little bit behind. No pressure here, but I just want to talk about them so I feel okay, right? Basically. So let's hop right in. So, ended May, a couple of things that I don't think I talked about. One of which being a Hollow Kingdom. Of course, I was reading this for Zombie-thon hosted by Kat over Kat's Novels Adventures. I always enjoy Zombie-thon. Had a great time with Zombie-thon in May and a great time with this book. I love this book. This is a zombie apocalypse sort of tale, but we are getting it from the perspective of animals, including our main character, this domesticated crow, who sets off on a little adventure to try to help his human, person who has, turned into a zombie. So he and the dog that he also lives with, like I said, set on a little adventure and trying to figure out what is actually going on. It was so much fun. Loved the perspective of this animal perspective and how would they, treat the end of the world, right? Can't recommend it enough. So fun. ST, great character, really funny. Yeah, just a real delight. Really, really had a good time with that. I also, I did a little vlog for this book, but just in case you haven't watched that, which is fine, I did read Heaven, and I really did love this as well. Very different from Hollow Kingdom, but this is a Japanese translated work and really is about bullying in school. We're following our main character who is a sort of young teenage guy, and he gets horrendously bullied in school, along with this other girl who gets horrendously bullied in school. And one day she slips a little note to him saying, hey, kind of the gist of it is basically, we're both getting bullied in school, why don't we become friends? So they kind of start hanging out together and things like that. Absolutely hard to read it. Sometimes the violence, the absolute horrid physical and mental violence, physical violence in particular, that these kids, get at the hands of other kids. Oh man, it was hard to read it sometimes for sure. But I think it's just a really good exploration of human relationships, power dynamics. A lot of good stuff going on in here. So I was happy to finally read that. So I think that was kind of the end of the May. And so let's bring it into June. So of course June, primarily I actually spent a lot of time reading for June on the Range and had a really good time with June on the Range this year. But the first, I'll just go in order so that I don't forget anything. I did start the month off with The Women Can Fly by Megan Giddings. This was our book pick for the Death by TBR book club. Of course, I co-host with my friend Kelly from Kelly Hooked on Books. And really enjoyed this one. Witchy vibes, sort of slightly dystopian feels. We're living in a world where women are pretty regulated, controlled in general. They're supposed to be, by the age 20, they're supposed to be like married and like, pumping out kids, and there's a thing. They're supposed to be doing this. People are always told to be on the lookout for witchcraft, how to identify a witch and things like that. And so our main character is approaching that 28-year-old mark, but she's not really interested in living that kind of life for herself. But she also lives within the confines of this world. Her mother had gone missing several years prior, and so she and her father had finally reached a point where they are going to just say that she is dead, right? And by doing that, she receives some information and sets off on a little journey to, figure out what's going on, essentially. And I really love this. Of course, I love these sort of juxtaposition or, comparativeness of, witchcraft over women and controlling women and things like that. Really good. Really enjoyed it. It was good. Yes, great. Okay. What was next? June on the Range, which is an event, let me backtrack, event created by Michael K. Bond to read Westerns during the month of June. And I have just been enjoying it. I enjoyed myself this year. I finally read Shane this year, more of a Western sort of classic novel. This is by Jack Schaffer. I thought this was excellent. Absolutely wonderful. And Shane, this was great. So this guy named Shane kind of rolls into this little small town, and he kind of latches onto this family that had, it's a mother and, a married couple, and they've got a little kid. I think he's about 8-ish or so years old, and he kind of intertwines himself with their life as he gets hired on and helps out around the farm, all that kind of good stuff. And then also there's this other kind of storyline going on where this, rich guy who is trying to, really wants to buy out all the homesteaders of the area because he is a big time rancher, and he wants his animals to be able to roam wherever they want, which includes their farmland. So there's that kind of dynamic going on. Now Shane is a man of mystery, and we don't know much about his background and things like that, but let's just say he does what he needs to do to help out this family. And it was just excellent. Slim little thing, characters were great, setting was great, really well written. Really enjoyed this book. Shane, very good. To continue on with the sort of Jude on the Range theme, I read The Bullet Swallower by Elizabeth Gonzalez James. I have actually had a really great time with this too. Especially if you like story with kind of like dual timelines, I think you'll like this one. So we've got, like I said, a couple different timelines. One in this sort of latter 1800s. Yeah, and we're following a man. What's his name again? Antonio Sonoro. Yes, and he is a Mexican man who's coming into the Texas territory. There involves like a train robbery, and it kind of escalates from there. And he kind of, over time in history, has garnered this reputation of being this cold-blooded killer. Essentially, it's sort of the legacy of what his name has become. And then we jump to a more kind of 1960s timeline, 1964, and then that character's name is Jamie Sonoro, and so he is an actor and singer in Mexico, and really kind of makes like cowboy movies essentially, and so he discovers his possible family link to this gunslinger from the past, and just kind of what that means, what that's meant to his family over the years, to have this sort of notorious guy in his family. Like his father, Jamie's father's like, we don't associate with this man, that kind of thing. Just a really beautifully told story of this just kind of generational family story, and I thought it was really great. I really did. I personally like kind of stories like flitter back and forth through time. I had a good time. I had a good time with this one, and I would recommend it. It was good. Yes. And then to switch things a little bit, because I am who I am, I did read a smutty book. Story. I've called it a story. Called, I don't even want to say it out loud, called Cawk by Whit Slorp. This was wild bananas, and so we're following at the beginning. We're set in Japan for some reason, I don't know, and so there's this sort of ritual, thing that's, what do you call it, festival almost, being celebrated, and for some reason they always need to build this giant phallus, and so they do that, and then as the dude's like taking it to the festival grounds, somehow it falls into the ocean, because of course it does, and it sits there for a while, gets irradiated by nuclear fallout, because of course it does, and then turns into a a kaiju of sorts essentially, and starts making its way through the ocean. Somehow finds its way all the way to Fire Island, where it starts attacking people. It's wild. There's a really good killing scene in it though, so yeah, kind of animal attack type story. It was fun. I don't know. It was a lot of fun. Okay. Okay, I did read White Horse by Erika T. Worth. This was for Brad Proctor's book club, Spinebreakers book club. And overall, really had a good time with this. I really liked this main character, Carrie, who's kind of like, she's in her 30s, and, she's kind of, I feel like she's a bit stuck in the rut. She's living the life. She's, drinks a lot, works at a bar, loves Stephen King and heavy metal. She's not necessarily living that, life that we all should live. She's not married and has kids yet, all that kind of good thing, right? But what we learned in the beginning, her mother has passed away, and then she finds this, I think it's a bracelet that opens up something, and perhaps she starts seeing the ghost of her mother, which leads her down this path of discovery of family secrets. and the story goes from there, really. And overall, I did have a really good time with this story. I feel like this is a bit mismarketed as a straight up horror book, because it's not a whole lot of horror going on here. Really, just kind of a, mystery, kind of thrillery type story. Again, mixed in with this kind of family drama, family secrets. But with some indigenous lore as well. This, Erika Sheworth being an indigenous author. And yes, she is Kenyon and Sewanee Fellow and a narrative artist for the Meow Wolf Denver installation. Very cool. She's an urban native of the Apache, Chickasaw, and Cherokee descent. So a lot of that is sort of woven into this as well, which was very interesting. And yeah, I didn't particularly love the ending, just the direction that it went. And then the ending, I was like, made me roll my eyes a little bit. But overall, just, I had a good time with the story and figuring out what was going on. Sorry, hit my tripod. Figuring out what was going on, all that good stuff. So yeah, I would recommend it. I'm definitely going to keep an eye out on, what's coming, down the pipeline from this author, because I'm intrigued. So yeah, I had a good time with that. All right, what is next? I read, of all things, oh my gosh, stuff's falling. Okay, so next I read, of all things, Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Who even am I? I know. So Kelly also did a little quarterly buddy reads over on Discord, and Jane Eyre was the pick for the second quarter. And I put it to the last minute because that's who I am as a person. But Jane Eyre is definitely one I've been wanting to read. I've always been very interested in. I've not read any Bronte at all, any of them. So yeah, I finally read Jane Eyre. Listened to the audiobook, which always helps me get through classics. And overall, I thought this was pretty great. Jane, as a character, I mean, what a sad beginning to her life, right? Her parents are dead. She's, gone as a kid, like thrown to her this nasty aunt that treats her like garbage and just sent off to a school just to get out of the way, and yada yada yada. She goes to be a governess and falls in love, and he's maybe kind of a turd. I mean, yeah, it's a drama-filled story. I really, I enjoyed this a lot, and really definitely glad that I have read Jane Eyre finally. So yay. It was thick. It was long, but yeah, I liked it. I did really. Okay, what is next? I read Lone Women by Victor Lavalle. Again, June on the Range-ish feel, because it is set out in the West, and I really liked this a lot. So we're following this woman here. Anyone else just terrible with names? Yes, Adelaide, yes. Who, for reasons, has sort of, left, her current living situation. And she ends up in the wilds of, is it Montana, Wyoming? I can't quite remember now. And does it say? Doesn't say particular, but anyway, but along with her, she brings this huge trunk, and which has become her burden through, sort of family obligations, we'll say. and so we figure out what is in the trunk, why she is, why she keeps hold of the trunk, what bringing this, trunk to the area means for the area. There's also a little side story of this mom and her 4 sons that are kind of terrorizing the place too. People are ending up dead and stuff. It's kind of a lot going on, but I just really, really loved this book. Loved Adelaide as a character. I loved the full setting here. The little town that she was close to, full of good little sub characters that were really just fleshed out the world, that I thought were super interesting. And yeah, it was great. Loved it. Really, really did enjoy that very, very much. I then read In the Valley of the Sun by Andy Davidson. I previously loved the 2 of Andy Davidson's books, Boatman's Daughter and The Hollow Kind, I think it was called. And this one I didn't love quite as much, but I did have a really good time with it. Right at the beginning, our sort of main character is released from prison. Then he kind of jets out of town, and he has this camper van. And now this set is set more like the 80s, but it feels like a Western, just I think because of the setting, and there's something about living out of a camper. It's kind of like I don't know, gives me westerny vibes with the way this guy was living, you know. Anyway, so he happens upon this, you know, little campground slash hotel that's run by this woman who is a widower and her young son, and he kind of gets intertwined with their life, starts helping out around the hotel, things like that. Excuse me. And you know, kind of what that means for them, because this guy, to remind you, has just been released from prison and may not be the best guy. Also, he has had a run-in with some sort of evil that has changed, that is sort of changing him. So there's a bit of a monster situation feeling like going on in this book too. So definitely horror, a lot of good horror in here, with especially some good body horror. And yeah, I had a good time with this one. It was a fun one. It was a fun read. Then, I don't know what I've done with the book between the time that I read it and now. I read White Shark by Peter Benchley, because, you know, summer vibes. Why not read a sharky type animal attack book? Sounds fun to me. And this one was wild, honestly. Overall, it was a really fun time. You know, we've got a couple of different things going on in here. First of which is, it starts off sort of following this man in the beginning who's fleeing because of the Nazi fall down, and you know, he's a Nazi himself, but he's fleeing the area in this U-boat with something in this big bronze box, and then the U-boat crash lands, and you know, yada yada yada, and then, you know, it's sort of discovered later on, which is our more modern storyline, right? And what's this inside the box? Da, 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 da. It's a monster. So we've got this monster now terrorizing people off the coast of Connecticut. And then our main character, though, is this man who kind of lives on this island, you know, in this area, and he runs like this nonprofit kind of biological study place, and there's a big shark in the area he's trying to save, yada yada yada. And then, you know, this monster shows up and all hell breaks loose. So that's the gist of the story, and that's really all you need to know. It's just a fun time. It isn't the most spectacular thing I've read, but it's just pure summer monster fun. You know what I mean? Okay. And then last, excuse me, How the Skin Sheds by Chad Lutzke, another in this series of the splatter westerns, and this one was really good. It was really good. So we're following a man who, in the very beginning, he's going to go visit his sister. When he gets to her house, he realizes she's been just awfully brutally murdered, and leaving behind her young daughter, who was also, you know, attacked but did survive. And so basically it turns into a revenge tale from there, of course. And so they set off looking for this guy who killed them. This is definitely set, you know, in the, you know, the sort of Western time period as well. And there's this freed enslaved man that joins them as well. They go looking for like a witch. They're just looking for the bag. I don't know. It turns into another kind of quest type of tale, but really good. This was such great. I always hate to say some good violence in here, but you know what I mean. So pretty brutal violence, and Chad Lutzke just always writes a good book, and this was no less. It was excellent. So that's it. Rapid fire. And I just been really enjoying my reading. My June I thought was really excellent. So that's gonna do it for me. And yeah, let me know what all you got into in June. I'd love to know what your favorite thing that you read in June was. And yeah, I'll be back soon with what I'm gonna, you know, what's gonna be happening in July, what I'm reading. So all right, I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye.